introducing the speakers, so I will start reading out their profiles. This session is chaired by a gentleman who we've already met yesterday. I'm talking about CEO of the Silver Institute, Mr. Michael DiRienzo. Mr. Michael DiRienzo serves as the president and CEO of the Silver Institute, which is an international association whose membership comprises the major participants in silver industry. In that capacity, he manages the Institute's overall daily activities, budget, development and management, implementing the annual plan, public affairs and government relations to activities. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands up for Michael DiRienzo as he joins us on the stage. Now, if that is the level of applause for Michael DiRienzo, you are a rock star as always, but then I can only imagine what's going to happen when I announce the next name. Well, he's the president and CEO of Hecla Mining, whose industry-leading growth will make it the US and Canada's largest silver producer. Having been the CEO for the past 20 years, he's also the chairman of Silver Institute USA. Please put your hands up for the very dapperly dressed Phil Baker. I absolutely dig his Independent t-shirt today, this morning. That's so amazing. Seriously, I totally agree with you. Can we please give him a unanimously approved award of the best dressed guy at the conference? These are the prints I want to see the Indian men in. This is looking so good on you, sir. Going on, I would now like to invite on stage, with over 20 years of experience in developing, commercializing and analyzing new technologies across multiple sectors, Dr. Trevor Keel is an independent consultant who has worked with various organizations focusing on both the role played by metals and the new materials in technical applications and a broad range of sustainability issues. Presently, the technical director of the Silver Institute, supporting the executive director with all aspects of silver's industrial and sustainability programs. He began his career as a chemist and a project manager at a pharma group, GlaxoSmithKline, and holds a PhD in nanotechnology from the University of Nottingham, a degree in chemistry from the University of Kent, and a master's degree in management from University College London. So could we please invite on stage Dr. Guru Trevor Keel. All right. Our next speaker on this panel is Mr. Elvis Chou from Metals Focus, Taiwan. 26 years of experience in semiconductors, specialty materials, and precious metals in industries. He leads the field research across Southeast Asia and East Asia and is responsible for the global industrial analysis for Metals Focus. He has previously worked in metal recycle and refining for solar applied metals and new product development in Materion. Please put your hands up for Mr. Chou as I invite him to please join us on the stage. Our final panelist for this panel is Mr. C. Chandru of Hindustan Zinc Limited, an IBU CEO of Hindustan Zinc Smelters based at Udaipur. Mr. Chandru is a B.Tech in metallurgy from PSG College of Technology, Coimbatore, and has been with Hindustan Zinc Limited since 2003. Well, he has been awarded the General Manager Award of the Year by Economic Times and the People's Business in 2021. He was awarded as one of the top 75 managers in the entire nation. That's quite an achievement. Having been a key person in structurally designing and achieving a 1 million ton metal production from the smelters of HZL, and he has improvised a silver flow sheet at PMP with a lot of automation and in-house innovation to double the design capacity. With such accomplished minds on the stage right now, I leave this session in the hands of Mr. DiRienzo. Have a great ride ahead, everyone. Keep it interactive with Slido.
All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We have an interesting panel. Hopefully we have some great questions from the audience as well. But we're here to talk about silver and the green energy transition. And we've all heard a little bit about that today, and in this session we're going to hear in depth what that means and where do we go from here. So before I start, I'd like to thank the organizers, Inventel Global Advisors, for their kind invitation for the Silver Institute to participate in this panel. And let's get started. So when it comes to silver, countless civilizations have revered the shiny white metal for its innate beauty and its intrinsic value. Today, silver is an essential component of modern life. And almost every day, scientists are discovering new applications for silver, making it one of the world's most versatile and crucial metals. Now, what makes silver so valuable is a unique combination of characteristics not found in any single other element. Silver is malleable and ductile. It's an excellent light reflector, and of course, it withstands extreme temperatures. Silver is a superior metal as a conductor of electricity. It's very strong for its weight and has many more valuable qualities, including in the antimicrobial arena. So when you find all these qualities in a single package, you have to think that it's really one of nature's most remarkable gifts. So we're here to talk about silver and the energy transition, and we're going to hear in depth, as I mentioned. But from silver's use in the leading clean energy application of solar energy to its incorporation into electric vehicles and their surrounding infrastructure, also to wind and nuclear power, silver is essential in the energy transition and will be for generations. So that leads us here today to the panel discussion entitled Silver and Green Energy. The future is here. Our distinguished panelists have already been introduced, so I'd like to start with the first question to Phil Baker. With supply and demand balance already in deficit, Phil, and rapidly growing demand for green industrial applications such as EVs and photovoltaics, can the mines keep up with supply? And what are some of the challenges you face as an industry this year and beyond?
Green light. You know, the reason this didn't work is because there's a silver contact in this, and it had not been pushed in order to turn it on. And that's true for everything around us. You know, I appreciate, I said I came to this conference to learn, and, you know, I'm here on the panel, but I will tell you I'm learning more than I'm contributing, but I'll do the best that I can. You know, if you think about India has one silver mine to speak of, right? I mean, it's a huge, huge one. It's the second largest silver mine in the world. You know, why is that? That's because there's lots of challenges in India in order to develop new mines. And that's not just the case in India, that's around the world. It's also true that silver, notwithstanding that it's considered less common than gold, and I don't remember what the statistics are, but it's something like 7 or 8 times more silver in the Earth's crust than gold. But interestingly, it's limited to just certain jurisdictions in the world. There's the silver belt that runs through North and South America. In Africa, there is no silver below the Atlas Mountains, to the south of the Atlas Mountains. So there's limited places that you can go to get silver. And silver, the silver market is 850 million ounces roughly. And that's been true for the last decade. There has not been, notwithstanding that prices, generally speaking, are much better than they have been certainly over the last 20 years. There's not been a lot of silver exploration nor development of new mines. And around the world, it takes roughly 20 years from the time that you make a discovery to the time that a mine goes into production. So, Michael, this is a long way of answering your question, of saying this demand that we're going to have from the green energy transition that's been going on now for, I guess, probably the better part of maybe a decade, maybe a little less. It's not going to come from the mines, at least not initially. It's going to have to come from above ground stocks. It's not going to come from recycling. It's going to come from higher prices and people being willing to let go of the silver that has already been mined.
Very good.
And I guess I didn't talk about the regulatory, you wanted the regulatory environment?
Well, some of the challenges we face today and going beyond, but we didn't get into the regulatory environment just yet.
I mean, so the challenges really is, regulatorily. If you think about when Hecla started 133 years ago, people would make a discovery and they would go into production within months. Now, we're not in that environment anymore, and we won't be. So it is a huge challenge to see that production grow.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Our next question is for Mr. Chandru, and we're just kind of wondering here, and I think the audience would be interested to hear about Hindustan Zinc's plan in the future to go down the value chain for manufacturing products that will be used in green energy.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks for the opportunity for expressing our views. Yes, as you rightly said, we are not in that stream of the value chain. We have stopped ourselves from being a business-to-business company. We are just trading in bullions and kilobars at the moment. But I just took out the max before I came here. So if I speak only about India, the Indian context, because our primary market focus and our target customer focus is India. So India will be putting up another 100 gigawatt of solar power in the next 5 years to meet the transition targets which we have made. And which means that for every 100 watts, 20 grams of silver goes in. So if I extrapolate the max, another 200 tons of silver paste is required in the country. But today, no one is making this. We are importing it wholesome. We as a company, as yesterday also this discussion came up, Michael, when Vijay Murthy was addressing, and we will be discussing with our CEO and the promoters, and maybe the immediate next step is to see, two things we are very clear. We don't want to cannibalize our downstream customers. Means we already have a well-set customer base of 700, 800 tons. We are definitely not going to do something which they are already doing. So silver paste is something which has not come up, and which we will be really excited to see upon that opportunity, and in the future maybe we may take up that manufacturing process, considering the technical expertise we have till that stage of the value chain.
Okay, terrific. That's great news. Elvis, so the Institute last week released World Silver Survey 2024 that was produced and researched on behalf of Metals Focus. And we've actually seen some very strong industrial numbers in that report. Can you actually discuss that in a little more depth?
Sure. And first, I want to thank Mike and Phillips and Silver Institute support so we can complete the World Silver Survey together. It's a very nice launch, I think. Then, as per our investigation, just like my colleague Chirash has mentioned yesterday, the global industry demand is a key driving force to drive the silver demand. And in 2022, based on our investigation, actually the global industry demand grew by 11% to the more than 20,000 tons a year. And this is especially we look at the electrical and electronic segment performed outstanding because with a growth rate about 20%. And this is mainly driven by the structural gain from the green-related applications, including photovoltaic and power grid construction and automotive sectors. And if we look at like photovoltaic, actually, this is really notably because the global installation capacity last year grew by 76%. And grew from 254 gigawatt to 444 gigawatt. And this is amazing growth. Converting to the silver demand, actually, it needs almost 6,000 tons a year. You know, so that's almost account for 30% of overall industry demand. So if you look at that, we look at in the past year of how much solar energy contribute to the industry demand. In 2019, actually, the proportion is only like 18% for photovoltaic in the industry demand, but it grows to 28% last year. So this is a really big move for photovoltaic. So nobody can ignore that. Then of course when we look at this is another successful is on the diversity. From the slides that my colleague Chou showed yesterday, you can see that in 2019 there's only 16 countries that install more than 1 gigawatt, but the number double last countries. So this is the effort, I think, of the country around the world to achieve the target of zero carbon emissions. So when we look at the installation plan that announced today, actually we will expect the solar installation will grew by like 29% this year, based on the data we have. The growth rate seems a little bit slowed down. But I believe after they develop so fast for a few years, but we still believe that the trend is a solid. Then we cannot ignore the potential. It still be the key driving force to the industry demand.
Okay, great. Follow-up question to you, Elvis. Is this demand being driven by by government mandates, or consumer choice, or by manufacturers looking to get into this market?
This is a trick. That actually, if you look at the contribution of a solar by each countries, more than 50% installed by China, and more than around like 80 to 90% panel and module capacity contributed by China. I think it's dominant by China right now. So this is much more market-driven, but also investment-driven. There's a very special business model for China panel and module companies, as they trying to use the government subsidy to get the free land and cost down aggressively. Then also use the cheaper electricity to produce their panel modules. This is like the circulation,
Okay.
So I think not only driven by market demand, but also they want to survive, because we all knew that the overcapacity is happening. Then by end of 2023, actually the worldwide solar capacity is more than 900 gigawatt. But the actual demand right now, we only need 500 to 600 gigawatt.
Okay, that's a great answer. Thank you. Trevor, can demand in the PV sector keep up at this breakneck level of growth we have seen in recent years? And are there any issues that could potentially temper future demand for silver?
Yeah, thanks, Mike, and thanks to the organisers for the invitation to join. I think Elvis has probably covered some of the challenges. I mean, it's a fairly complex sector generally. Firstly, we've seen over the last 10 years incredible growth. I mean, obviously, we're nearly at 200 million ounces, I think it was last year. Forecast to maybe get up towards 250 million ounces, which really is staggering when you think back to what it was just 5-10 years ago. Incredible, really, which is great, and it's great to see that sort of growth. But that does throw up challenges, and I think, if we're going to see silver price rises, which I think most people in this room probably believe, that does throw up some challenges around thrifting, around substitution. But of course, what we've got with silver is a very special metal indeed that really kind of is able to fight off some of those challenges. You have this amazing combination of conductivity. We've heard this spoken about over the last day quite a lot. Silver is the best conductor, but you combine that with silver's longevity in technical applications. So you have the ideal material, really, for use in solar cell technologies. And that's really why we haven't seen a great deal of straight out substitution. Okay, there's been, for years, people have been trying to put copper into solar cells. In the lab, maybe it works fine. When you get into the real world, where you need a 20-year, maybe a 20-year life cycle of a panel, then that argument really falls away. So there's a potential saving up front, but that falls away very quickly. But I think it's important that there is a challenge there. When you see such rapid growth, it will make people sort of sit up and take notice that silver, as a relatively expensive material, is being used in very significant quantities. So it will create a bit of a drive to continue to look at thrifting silver from these types of technologies. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Now, I have a direct analogy with this, and Elvis knows this probably better than I do, having worked in the gold industry for a number of years. From 2009 to 2012, the gold price doubled effectively in that 3-year period. And what that did to gold's use in the electronics industry was it really hit it very hard, because the development of alternatives to gold bonding wire, which is a very common material used in the electronics sector, were really, really stimulated, and you started seeing materials like actually silver wires come in as an alternative, and platinum coated silver and copper wires. So when you see that type of growth in value, there is always a challenge there. So that could be something that creates a challenge to silver. However, you can always fall back on the fact you've got this ideal combination of electrical conductivity and longevity for use in the PV sector. So it's a very interesting thing that we'll have to keep an eye on as the years progress.
All right, thank you. And I'd like to thank the audience too. We have a couple questions coming here, but first I want to go to Phil. Phil, will higher silver prices materially impact the demand for green energy?
Will higher silver prices affect the demand for green energy? Look, it depends on how high. Yeah. So from my perspective, I work for a company that's been around a long time. I want it to be around for a long time in the future. What I would hope is that while you'll have these periods of time with spikes in the silver price, I would prefer a more consistent growth in the silver price rather than huge volatility. And so, one of the messages that I have, and I'm hoping the Silver Institute has, is to encourage investors, encourage manufacturers to never be short silver. And someone was talking to me last night, and they said that was the advice that their grandfather, who was a silver trader, told them, is don't go to bed short silver. That's the message that we really need to have, because I do think that if you have a huge volatility, these manufacturers are going to look for a way to eliminate that.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Chandru, this year has seen the Indian government make changes to the Electricity Act to promote electric vehicles and solar energy. How might this impact demand for silver in India?
I don't think if you see from our perspective as a manufacturer, it doesn't make a significant change. But yes, if you see the amount, again, since I'm from engineering background, if you see for manufacturing an electric vehicle, the per capita consumption of silver used in an auto car with this EV transition coming will be going up from 15 to 20 grams per car to 25 to 50 grams per car. So that's what the study reports are saying. So what happens is, definitely with this green transition where the government is giving SOPs, in even companies like Hindustan Zinc, for example, we promote our employees to buy EV cars. So in our call policies, we always have that extra margin of allowance available for employees to go for EVs. And also we are seeing a lot of impetus from the government to promote EV manufacturing, and with the simple max is the number of units of manufacturing going up and the per capita consumption of silver per car almost doubling. Definitely this is one sector where the silver demand is going to go up. That is I'm sure of. So so I don't know how we are going to catch up because, yeah, we do have plans for expansion, but we really don't know on the Indian context. Whatever I'm speaking is on the Indian context. Today we are at 5,500 to 6,000 tons net import, and and this, even if we catch up and make another 200, 300 tons, the demand in India is definitely going to only go up. That's the way I see it, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a question here from the audience, and I think this one would go to Elvis. Can the silver used in solar panels or other industries be recycled, thereby reducing dependency on mines?
Okay, for the solar panel recycle is a big question or big challenge for the industry, because 20 years ago, like the first batch first installation solar panel is almost of a life and pending for recycle. But now people have found some problem on recycle because especially when you look at the silver loadings in panels in the past 10 years, actually it dropped almost 90%. So there's no financial benefit for this recycler to recycle these panels, these scrap panels. This is just a responsibility actually. They cannot get a very solid profit from that. So this is, I think I knew that many company and government try to push this industry, and because this is an environmental problem. But to be honest, on the financial or the perspective, this is still a long way to go. We still have a lot of problem to overcome, especially there's a protection layer on the solar panel service. It's very hard to take it out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Trevor,
just to
sorry.
add to that, yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the case. I think there are kind of a few, I think there's a new factory in France, I believe, that is starting to try and sort of recover and recycle some of these solar panels. But to make it a commercial effort, like Elvis said, it's very challenging because the value just isn't there. It's not quite the same as spent electronics, where you might have gold and platinum and palladium as well, which help commercialize those types of activities. So it's likely to become almost a government-regulated sort of drive more than a commercial drive, just because simply the value isn't there. And as Elvis said, as thrifting increases, you get less and less silver per cell. So some of those very early cells are probably very silver-rich, so there is a better commercial kind of incentive there. But as time goes on, less silver per cell means less of an incentive to recover that silver.
And it won't really matter with respect to the mines. We already are short what the mines are able to produce. Right. You're not going to replace that with the recycling. Recycling is about 200 million ounces. Mines are about 850 million ounces. The demand currently is about 1.2 billion ounces. So we're short 200 million ounces. Recycling is not going to make that up. Demand's growing much faster than supply is.
Very good. Phil, you had mentioned earlier about opening up a new mine from discovery to actual production. Can you tell some of our attendees here about the experience in the United States, for example?
Well, it's no different in the U.S. In fact, maybe in some respects much worse than the rest of the world because of the permitting process. I'm sure you're aware, the U.S. is a litigious country. So what happens is you get a permit that allows you to go forward, and then you're stopped because of litigation. You then re-permit. They then find another reason to try to stop you. And ultimately becomes a question of the judges that are hearing the cases. So it's very arbitrary, very uncertain. There's some things that will happen in certain jurisdictions like Nevada that will happen, within a 10 or 15 year time frame. And then there's other things like a project we have in Montana that, might take 40 years to permit. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Trevor, what other applications currently in development may impact silver demand in the longer term?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Silver is at the heart of so much new R&D. It's very exciting. I mean, the last session today, I hope everybody can stay for it. We've got 3 speakers from very well-known Indian institutions working on silver and new applications for silver. So there's all sorts of research ongoing. Some of it's really fascinating, and some small numbers of those efforts will end up in demand for silver. And I think personally, one of the most, as a chemist, one of the most interesting is around the use of silver in catalysis, chemical catalysis. So, as most of you I think know, silver is a very good chemical catalyst. It's already used extensively in the EO sector, which is now very significant pool of silver that is installed around the world and then gets swapped out and renewed, and that is growing. And I think there are a number of other chemical catalysts that are of real interest for longer term. One of those that I would highlight is around electrocatalysis. So one of the big areas of research at the moment is looking at ways of taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and turning that carbon dioxide into useful chemicals. And one way you can do that is through electrocatalysis, and silver is an excellent electrocatalyst. And I think this is some time down it's not going to happen tomorrow, but in a number of years' time, you could potentially see that as becoming a very significant source of demand for silver. So I think on the chemical catalysis side, that's a good example. And I think one thing that will happen sooner than that is around the use of AI and the growth of AI in the electronics industry. Now, Elvis will tell you a lot more about that than I can probably, but it's a real area of growth for silver. It's going to become increasingly important, and all of these chips and all of the infrastructure that you require for these types of facilities are very high end and require the best materials, which is of course silver. So that's going to be a very strong source of demand, I think, going forward. So those 2 areas I think are very, very interesting. I don't know whether Elvis wants to add anything to that. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chandru, is there anything else on the ground here in India which could potentially support demand for silver in the energy green transition? Are we seeing government subsidies or encouragement for the consumers to adopt an electric vehicle? I know your company has one, but is this coming from the government as well?
Sorry, there is no policy decisions as such which we can talk of for pushing, but there I can see a transition. I can see a consumer awareness. 1 year ago, the number of vehicles, I come out of a small city in Rajasthan, Udaipur. The number of EV vehicles which I could see 2 years ago, and if I see today, every 4th or 5th vehicle is EV. So there are 2 things. One is the government makes policies, incentives, and push to people to switch to EV. And next is the natural consumer awareness, because they realize that they pay 10-20% more upfront in the capital, but their running cost significantly comes down considering today's fuel prices. So what I see happening going forward in the country is rather than the consumer awareness and the natural demand and the shift towards EV vehicles taking the forefront rather than the government policies which is going to increase the demand of EV vehicles in the country. I'll tell you another example. We are also working in making our value chain green. So even in our minds, it will be difficult for many people to believe there's huge 60-tonner trucks which runs underground and brings the ore out. We have successfully managed to transit those trucks to EV trucks now. So this is a pioneer step, and it's not only happening on the road, but it's also happening on the industrial vehicles. So what we are doing now is, what it does to the mine is, in underground mine, if you see, the most important thing is the ventilation. The amount of exhaust fuel gas these diesel fossil fired vehicles emit has to be exhausted out, and it makes the mining process more costly. So once you put an EV vehicle, this exhaust gas emission completely cuts down, and that's a big incentive for the miners to transit to EV rather than the government policies pushing up one. And so that's the way I see it, Michael. To be honest, the natural customer inclination is what is going to create the shift.
Very good, thank you. Another question we have from the audience is, and Elvis or anybody up here can feel free to go ahead and answer, why does a solar panel only last 25 years?
Unless this is a very technical technical question, then for the solar panel, actually, it can sustain for more than 25 times, for 25 years. However, we call this the decay. Just think about that when the product under the sunshine, under the UV attack, how long it can sustain, it will decay. So once it decay to the certain value, like we call like 80%, or it's only 80% efficiency than the original, then we will say that okay, it's not commercialized, it's not good to use anymore. So we need to scrap that to upgrade or replace for the new one. So we can have a better return or better commercial perspective, commercial income. So that's the key reason. So that's why we define that the solar panel can use 20 years with the decay only within 15%. So this is like industry standard.
Is it the silver that decays, or is it?
No, the overall panel efficient transition, I think the energy transfer efficiency decay.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Chandru. I just want to value add on this point that when companies started giving 25 years warranty, the reason was that panel they made was tested in the labs, and the lab only have the capacity in accelerated form to test it for 25 years. So now the labs have increased their capacity. So you see panel coming with 30 to 35 years warranty also. So will the panel be dead after 35 years? No. But the warranty comes only because the lab is only able to give this amount of certification. ISC certification, what we say for the panel, which is to be used. So.
Okay, so my assumption then is at the end of the life cycle of that particular panel, they're replaced with other panels that incorporate silver.
Yeah, you can replace it or the panel will continue generating. But the certification or the warranty will be over.
Okay.
It's like you can continue using it. There's no expiry for it. But even 25 years, believe me, how things are happening in wind sector. Earlier there were small turbines. Same site is now replaced by bigger turbine. Like we are changing our phone. Probably in next 5 years, people will change their old panel to new. So from the same panel, you will get more output. Like 700 watt peak may be replaced by 1000 watt peak or 1500 watt peak. So if in the same area you are getting more output, if your ROI is working, you will replace the old panel and put it the new one. Because land is going to be scarce in the future.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And we have another question here from the audience, and it says, with the new technologies for solar cells, how much silver per gigawatt will be required? They asked, did you, Elvis, or Trevor say that there were 500 to 600 gigawatts are expected in 2024?
Yeah, you know that the solar industry now is in the transition to the P-type, the N-type. For the P-type, I think this is pretty mature. From the industry standard, most company, the solar panel company can manufacture the panel with the silver loading around like 10 to 12 milligram per watt. So that is like an industry standard. Otherwise, you don't have a competitive. You are not competitive. But for the N-type, I think it's a much higher silver loadings because right now there's two mainstream for N-type. This is we call TOPCon, another is HAT. Then for the TOPCon, I think it's like right now still have like 25 to 40% higher than the P-type. Then and for the HAT, it's a little bit higher, but they have a very aggressive thrifting and substitution programs. They are using because this is for this HAT solar cell, they are using a low temperature process. So they can use that, they can use the copper as a replacement material. So many company already qualify the copper, silver coated copper powder or silver coated copper powder paste. So I believe in the future, these silver loading right now, they're still higher than TOPCon, but they will be dropped very fast this year.
Okay, very good. Is there anything any of our panelists would like to add as we conclude this session? We're almost out of time. Mr. Chandru.
No, nothing. I just wanted to, speak on, there is a perspective on how silver is getting applied on the green energy, but there is a little bit on the other side also. Till the silver is made, we as a mining company, basically we call ourselves miners. How are we making our own value chain green? Just I said. So our value chain starts from mining and then smelting and then refining, which we do in 3 different areas and 2 different states, 900,000 kilometers apart. So what are we doing in the entire value chain is like make it green. So green is in green manufacturing is all about how you manage your power, how you manage your water, and how you manage your waste. So on the power, Michael, I will be happy to say that we are completely shifting to we are sourcing our entire power from renewable sources. It will start kicking in from next month to the mines which produces silver. So 150 megawatt power will start coming from them. So if you see the total bifurcation of the power consumption across the smelter and the mines, it is even Steven, 30 megawatts, 30 megawatts in the mine and 30 megawatts in the silver. And with this 30 megawatt in the smelter, sorry. And with this renewable power coming in, we are just making sure that entire manufacturing facilities also produce silver in a green way. And the next is water. So we just want to eliminate the reliability on fresh water sources. India is a country which has a growing population, and with urbanization, the per capita water consumption is also going up. And water is going to be a next precious treasure in the next 15-20 years as I see it. So what we are doing is we have put up facilities to treat the entire sewage water of Udaipur, and that water is being used in our mines and smelters instead of fresh water or processed water. And in all our lead and silver smelting facilities, we don't let a single gram of waste go out. Everything is recovered in some other form. So the transition for a miner like us is really making our own value chain green first, and then contributing to the green transition which will be happening in the country or across the globe. Thank you.
Very good. Let's give our panelists a great hand here. And to summarize, I'll make it very brief. The future of silver is bright, and what you learn here today will not tarnish. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DiRienzo, and thank you so much for that final word as well. Gentlemen, please stay on the stage as I request the session chair to present a memento to each one of you, starting with a big thank you going out to Mr. Phil Baker. I would request Mr. DiRienzo to present a memento to him. Gentlemen, ladies, let's have a round of applause. Thank you, Dr. Trevor Keel. A big thank you to Mr. Elvis Chou. Mr. Elvis Chou has already built some more excitement for the final session that's coming up at the end of the day today. Please be with us as it promises to be a very, very interesting one. Mr. C. Chandru, sir, thank you so much. I would now like to invite Mr. Srivatsava Ganpati to please join us on the stage. And this is the time he gets to do the honors for you. So why don't I request you to please step towards the middle of the stage. Thank you, gentlemen.